Hi everyone, we've reached 12 o'clock noon, our new time for our monthly wellbeing chats moving forward here at the Electrical Industries Charity. So thanks so much for joining. I think we'll kind of kick off. It's now 12 o'clock, as I said. I can't quite believe it, but we're on May's wellbeing talk. We're absolutely delighted to have Andy Baines-Wasper with us today. But before we kind of get set, just to remind everyone that today's session is being recorded and it'll be distributed in a day or so. If you could all keep your cameras off for the time being and remain on mute, please activate the chat box. We do encourage some interaction. There will be a Q&A at the end of the discussion. We hope the presentation will take around 45 minutes. So I'm absolutely delighted to have Andy along with us today. So Andy is a man on a mission, and his mission is to get people sharing the weight on their shoulders. Andy is a long-standing Samaritan and really understands the value of talking. So ahead of next week's Mental Health Week, I'm delighted to have Andy joining us today. So I'll hand over to you now, Andy. Take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for joining today's call as well. I hope you're all well. What I'm going to do is just load up my PowerPoint and start talking you through a campaign I like to call Share the Weight. Now, I can't see everybody here, and yes, we'll do some Q&A at the end, but really just going to talk you through a campaign, as I said, that I've created called Share the Weight, which is all around asking for help. Now, before I do, I'll introduce myself. Hopefully, bear with me. Start to the session with some tech problems. Excellent. Okay. So this is me with what I call my bag of worries. For those that don't know me, I'm the head of written word for Samaritans. So basically, I support our volunteers in delivering our emotional support service through the written word. So as well as our emotional support line 116123 at Samaritans, we also deliver emotional support via email, online chat, and through letter. My job is to support those volunteers in delivering those services. I've been a listening volunteer for Samaritans for around 7 years. I volunteer with our Bexley and Dartford branch. And yeah, you know, it's extremely close to my heart, Samaritans as a whole, but without a doubt, being a listening volunteer has been an incredible experience and one that I'm extremely privileged to be able to do. Worked in the rail industry for 15 or so years before I sort of moved over to a career within suicide prevention. Worked in operational delivery within rail plants. Very, very busy, stressful, and quite a difficult time in my career at some points for those that know the rail industry. And I'm also a founder of Share the Weight campaign, which is what I'm going to talk to you about now. So that's me as a whole, but that's not really who I am. It's a very different contrasting picture from one to the other. One when I knew the camera was on me versus when I didn't realise there was a camera on me. And this pretty much reflects me, I think, in general. So who am I outside of the career? I'm a husband. I've been married for coming on to 24 or 22 years now. I think as anybody will know who's in a relationship, been in a relationship, etc., it can be difficult. And being married for, so long, it has its ups and its downs. Very much love my wife. I'll just get that in there just in case. But the fact of the matter is, as with anything, when it comes to relationships, it comes with its good, it comes with its bad, and putting in a lot of work to make sure we continue to stay married. I'm a father. I've got 2 children. My daughter is nearly 12, going on 20, and my son is 27 this year. It's hard being a parent. I'm struggling with a few things at the moment. very much. My daughter has gone from years of being a daddy's girl, to now looking at me like I'm very much. I've got a nickname in the household now, which is the spare adult, and that has definitely been a difficult transition. Watching her grow up and going through the struggles of, you know, becoming a young lady. Um, Watching her go through the struggles of the SATs, various bits and pieces. And yeah, got a lot of worries about, her growing up, and yeah, just general life worries and dealing with not being such an important part of her life anymore. Although I realise I am important, very much sort of managing those feelings of not necessarily being needed or wanted sometimes as well, depending on what mood she wakes up in. Um, my son, as I said, nearly 27. He's living his life at the moment, but as with it, having children comes with a lot of worries. Watching him try and transition from sort of a young man into sort of that adulthood, and yeah, again, not being needed anymore in the sense that I've been used to growing up over the years. Love them both to bits, but both again come with a lot of struggles, a lot of worries, just trying to navigate life with them, and that whole sort of family routine. I'm a son. I'm very fortunate to still have both of my parents. That said, that comes with its own set of worries. Watching them, get older, and having those sort of worries about what the future is going to look like. My mum turns 80 soon, and yeah, just a few worries as a son, does have with parents. My mum had a fall the other day. I felt awful because she didn't tell me about it, because she didn't want to worry me. I only found out a few days later after the dust had settled, after she'd been to hospital, and only by accident through my dad. So yeah, lots of worries when it comes to parents. I'm a friend. When I say I'm a friend, I've probably got two or three close friends. As I get older, the close friend pile has definitely decreased over the years. Our lives have changed, and I still keep in contact with lots of old friends. But I'll probably say I've got one or two really, really close friends that I feel, that are sort of within that really close inner circle. I'm an ex-drug addict. Between the ages of 18, probably 24, 25, I developed an addiction to cocaine and to weed. One of the very much darker periods of my life. Ended up in thousands of pounds worth of debt, and it took a long, long time to recover from that. Nearly lost my family, and that is a whole nother story for another time. But unfortunately, there's a lot of guilt that I still carry with that for the effects that I had on people around me. Thankfully, I haven't, drunk or taken drugs for years, but it still very much holds a lot of guilt and a lot of, I think, yeah, we'll say a lot of guilt for now. I'm infertile, something which is I've dealt with throughout the years. Found out in my late 20s, again, when it comes to sort of the guilt and the feelings of inadequacy. That was huge for me when I found out. Put a lot of guilt on myself, potentially because it was a result of the drug addiction. Very much made my peace with that now over the years, and support other men going through fertility. But at the time, it was one of the worst experiences I've been through. Hit my manliness, in ways which I never thought were possible, and put a lot of strain on my relationship with my wife. Thankfully, as I said, I do have two children. And again, the whole story of the infertility is a story for another time, but that is who I am. I'm in debt, like most of us, credit card bills, mortgage, car loan, etc. Got a lot of financial worries. I work in the charity sector, so obviously, the salary isn't, it gets through, but got a lot of debt. Like most of us, it is a massive worry and a constant source of stress. I'm overwhelmed. I work full time, I volunteer, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I run my own mental health campaign, which we're going to come on to in a minute. Um, I feel overwhelmed most of the time. Learned the ways of dealing with it, but at the same time, as I'm sure a lot of us listening at the moment, life can feel extremely, extremely overwhelming. And just because I'm here to talk about, the topic of mental health and various bits and pieces, I'm human and I'm overwhelmed. I'm anxious. Talking to yourselves now, extremely anxiety inducing. Doesn't matter how many times I talk to people, doesn't matter how many times I talk about share the weight or various other things in life. The anxiety never goes. I can feel my heart rate's up. I can feel I'm stuttering, worrying about what I'm going to say next, looking at the time, etc., etc. And that anxiety goes into other aspects of my life as well. I'm depressed. I talk about it with it's, how can I put this? So yes, I mean, ultimately, yes, I am depressed. I found myself talking to my doctor about 8 weeks ago, because I think over the past few months, I've felt myself moving down that sort of steps into a bit of a bad place. I do a lot of good things for my own mental health. I work in the field. I talk about mental health a lot. So I was doing all the right things, but in front of people, I looked okay. I looked like I did in that first picture, smiling, outwardly. But I was noticing that when I was on my own, I wasn't feeling good and it was getting worse. And despite all of these good things that I was doing, I needed a bit of extra help. Now, I've been through depression in the past, something which never really, I don't think, leaves us. And I think my wife has started to recognize where I was at and where I could potentially be at if I didn't, sort of reach out. So I reached out to my GP. We had a really, really good conversation, talked through, what I've been feeling, what was going on, and decided that the next step was probably to restart antidepressants. As I said, I've been through depression a lot in the past. And I was in a place where I wasn't taking any antidepressants, but given all of the things that I was doing in life for my mental health and how I was feeling, a decision was made that I needed to that little bit more support. And I'm tired as well. Yeah, I'm just tired all the time. It feels like lately. Life is hard sometimes. It can feel exhausting. And yeah, I think it's safe to say that I just feel tired. And that is the stuff that people can't see. That is me. That is the things that if you look at that first photo, that you wouldn't necessarily assume that's kind of how I'm feeling or that's kind of what I've been through. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. And that's what that bag that you can see on my shoulders represents. That is life. That is all of the things that I've spoken about just now, all of my worries, everything that's going on, the stuff that people can't see, and the reason why I do what I do with Share the Weight, which is what I will come on to now. So yeah, that's a bit of motivation to kickstart the talk. But what I will do now is talk you through Share the Weight. So rather than me talk you through it now, I'm going to show you, there's a few videos in this presentation. The first one is a real brief overview of what Share the Weight is and also shows it in action. I'm going to play the video and then talk through it a bit more about what it is. It's a pleasure to welcome Andy from... Bear with me, let me just turn the sound up a bit.
Share the Weight, welcome to OTC, Andy. Tell us a bit more about your purpose and what Share the Weight's all about.
Share the Weight is basically me going around asking people for help to share the weight on my shoulders. The weight on my shoulders is represented by this big red bag. It weighs 24.7 kilos and I call it my bag of worries. It represents the weight that we all carry in life, the stuff that people don't see, the stuff that weighs us down, no one knows about. And it weighs 24.7 kilos, so I do it to raise awareness of Samaritans, and Samaritans are open 24/7. I'm trying to ask a million people for help so that we can all ask each other for help. Doesn't make us weak, doesn't make us a burden, and that together we're so much stronger.
Amazing. And where does it all stem from?
I've been through things in life, things like things like drug addiction, infertility, depression, and I never asked for help at the right points until it was nearly too late. I started last year to run London Marathon with my bag to raise awareness of Samaritans.
Oh, sorry.
It's supposed to be a one-time thing, run a marathon, put my bag down. Because of a conversation I had on marathon day with another bloke, very, very similar to me, big bald tattoos, you know. We had the most incredible conversation and kind of made me think, what more can I do with my bag? And that's where Share the Weight was born. So now I go around asking as many people as I can for help, asking complete strangers and just showing that we can all ask for help, we can all share the weight.
Here we are, we're contributing to the million people, OTC Share the Weight, let's go.
So that is Share the Weight. That was made by a run club. Hopefully you can hear that all right as well.
Andy, can I just jump in? I'm not sure because your mic wasn't muted. It was a bit kind of jumpy when the video was playing.
Okay, do you want me to play it again? If I stop sharing and reshare with the muted
I think if you mute your mic, and I'm sure that might help it. It was just kind of echoey for me. I'm not sure if that was for everyone.
Perfect. Bear with me 2 seconds. Let me mute and then try and play again. If you can give me a thumbs up if it sounds better.
It's a pleasure to welcome Andy from Share the Weight. Welcome to OTC, Andy. Tell us a bit more about your purpose and what Share the Weight's all about.
Share the Weight is basically me going around asking people for help to share the weight on my shoulders. The weight on my shoulders is represented by this big red bag. It weighs 24.7 kilos and I call it my bag of worries, and it represents the weight that we all carry in life, the stuff that people don't see, the stuff that weighs us down that no one knows about. And it weighs 24.7 kilos. So I do it to raise awareness of Samaritans, and Samaritans are open 24/7. I'm trying to ask a million people for help to show that we can all ask each other for help. Doesn't make us weak, doesn't make us a burden, and that together we're so much stronger.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And where does it all stem from?
I've been through things in life, things like things like drug addiction, infertility, depression, and I never asked for help at the right points until it was nearly too late. Decided last year to run London Marathon with my bag to raise awareness of Samaritans. It was supposed to be a one-time thing, run a marathon, put my bag down. Because of a conversation I had on marathon day with another bloke, very, very similar to me, big bald tattoos, you know. We had the most incredible conversation and it kind of made me think, what more can I do with my bag? And that's where Share the Weight was born. So now I go around asking as many people as I can for help, asking complete strangers and just showing that we can all ask for help, we can all share the weight.
Here we are, we're contributing to the million people, OTC Share the Weight, let's go.
Okay, I hope you all heard that okay. So yeah, that was I just seen the camera on, was that okay? Perfect, excellent. So that was made by a running club that I went to a few months ago, but just to sort of really recap what Share the Weight is. Ooh.
It's a pleasure to welcome Andy from Share the Weight. Welcome to OTC.
So that big red bag you can see is my bag of worries, and it represents the weight of life that we all carry. For me, it represents all of those things that I spoke to you about and so much more, things I haven't got enough time to go through today. But it represents that weight of life. There's a saying that suicide is the final collapse under an unbearable weight. And for me, this is what that bag represents. It's the weight of life that we all carry. It weighs 24.7 kilos to remind people that Samaritans are there 24/7 for anybody that's struggling with the weight of their own life. Also, the fact that we all carry that burden around with us 24/7. Sometimes we don't ever put it down. It started as a one-off for the 2024 London Marathon. So last year, I was fortunate enough to get my first ever London Marathon place with Samaritans, and we were charity partner of the year that year. So it was a very big year, and I wanted to mark it with doing something a bit different. So I decided that I was going to run the London Marathon with that weight on my shoulders. Again, to raise awareness of Samaritans, to bring to life that weight of life that we're all carrying. That was it. It was supposed to be a one-off, never to be seen from again. I had no intention of it ever going any further than the finish line of that marathon. And then during the marathon morning, going into the starting pen, I met a security guard, and he gave me the look that so many people have given me now when walking into places with that bag on my shoulders. And that started a conversation, and he wanted to see how heavy the bag was. So he put the bag on his shoulders, and then we started talking. and had one of the most memorable conversations I think I've ever had with anybody really, but especially a complete stranger in the middle of a field with thousands of people. And he told me a few things that were going on for him at the time, and it was quite a heartbreaking story really to hear what he was going through, the fact that he wasn't able to tell anybody, and we had an incredible conversation and an incredible moment, which I won't forget, which what really kick-started this journey. So after that, spent a couple of months recovering, and then that's where sort of Share the Weight was born. I thought I wanted to do more with this bag and take it and see what more conversations we can bring. Over the last, I started in July last year, and have now ran and walked hundreds of miles asking people for help with my bag of worries. So far since then, over 1,500 people have helped share the weight on my shoulders since July. Not only the physical weight, but also the emotional weight as well. Because when I do share the weight, I tell my story. I tell people, like I did at the beginning, some insight into some of the worries that fill my bag. The message throughout this whole thing is very, very simple. The weight of life is too heavy to carry alone. Together, we are so much stronger, and together we can share the weight that we carry. It's been so far one of the most incredible experiences. I call it a help-seeking adventure. Never quite know where I'm going to be next with my bag of worries. But one thing I have noticed over the last few months is, before, when I started this, I was reaching out to people to see if they would help me. Now people are reaching out to see if they can help me. So it seems to have flipped, and people want to help share my weight. They want to help tell the story, and they want to share their weights as well. So what have I learned along the way over the last few months of asking for help? Now, there's a few more videos here because I think it's good to hear from some of the other people that I've met along the way that have helped share the weight. I will play this. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this. I'll mute myself.
I'm sharing the weight for those who are not here today. I've lost mates in Iraq. I've lost mates in Afghanistan. I've lost mates through suicide. Because remember one thing, if you're struggling today, you've got all the worries, just remember this, tomorrow is a completely different day. You've got this. You've got different tactics. You've got different options. And you've got people out there for you. You keep going. Whether it's your mate, those on WhatsApp, let people know how you're feeling. You can share the weight. Most importantly, share the love.
Now, before that man shared my weight, we were pretty much strangers. What I found throughout this whole experience and asking for help and meeting so many different people across so many different places is how quickly you can connect with people on a real personal level. That was what, again, I've had lots of really, really emotional conversations. A few shed tears along the way, and that was one of those conversations. And the conversation that came after, when he told me more about his story. But I find it incredible. The more people I meet, the more conversations I hear, just what people are going through. So some of the things that I've learned along the way, the one thing that links every single one of us is the weight that we carry on our shoulders. We're all human. We're all different people. We've all got different lives. We've all got different beliefs. We've all got various different things that separate us from each other. But the one commonality that I've found in asking, over 1,500 people now for help, is the thing that links every single one of us is the weight on our shoulders. And some of us have got heavier weights than others, but the weight is very much there. We're not fine. Every one of us is carrying something, whether it's big, whether it's small, and we might be fine today, but we might not be fine tomorrow. And throughout these conversations, throughout these moments of connection that I've had along the way, what I found is often the people, like you saw with that first picture of me smiling and happy, are the ones that are carrying the heaviest weight. Our weights are all very, very different, but the effects are the same. You know, as I said at the start, I'm in debt, got credit card bills, I've got mortgage, I've got a car loan. You know, I'm worried about money. Somebody else might be worried about something completely different. Just because what we're worried about, just because what's in our bag, that weight on our shoulders is different, the effects are still the same. That feeling of exhaustion in carrying it, that tiredness, the all of these emotions that come with those weights on our shoulders, they're all the same. It's just the weight is very different. When we share our weight, we give permission for others to share theirs. Again, you know, a lot of the time when I share the weight on my shoulders, it starts with me giving context as to what that weight means for me. For example, went to a run club a couple of weeks ago and we're talking about especially my drug addiction, and went into quite a bit of detail about that because of sort of the audience that I was talking to. And then we went for a run, somebody shared my weight, and then they opened up to me about something that they were going through. And this happens in relation to the same topic. And this happens time after time. Sometimes it takes us to ask for help to share our weight for others to feel comfortable about sharing theirs. But when we do share our weight, it makes other people feel safe to be able to share theirs. And it starts a bit of a domino effect. Sharing is contagious. It always makes me smile sometimes when I turn up to various different events with my bag of worries, sometimes unannounced, whether it's a run club, whether it's a corporate event, and I'll turn up with my bag of worries, and a lot of people will look and stare but be a bit hesitant at asking to sort of what it's all about. And then all it takes is one person to ask and to share the weight, and then it has that domino effect, and it goes from no one wanting to be near me and a fear of asking to all of a sudden everyone wanting to help. And sometimes all it takes is that first moment of asking for help before those dominoes start to fall. I'll liken that to, as I said at the start, yes, I've been back to my GP recently, taking antidepressants. It took that one domino for me to ask for help for others to start to fall around me, to start to realize actually I need to do more. So once I realized and made that first ask of help, I was then able to talk to other people around me and say, this is actually how I'm feeling, because I felt confident enough, you know, that first domino had fallen. I was able to step back from a few things. I was able to do other things that helped me, but it had to be that one step before the rest would follow. It's exactly the same when it comes to sharing that way. Sometimes we don't realize how heavy life has become. I cannot stress this highly enough. This has been one of the biggest lessons for me across this whole time. We carry a lot of weight around with us on our shoulders. A lot of the time we don't realize how heavy it's become. There's been so many times where people have offered to help share my weight, and we started talking and they started to talk about what's going on for them. And they haven't realized until they've actually spoken about it, spoken about what's been worrying them, spoken about what's been going on for them, they've realized how heavy and how much they've got going on. I had such an emotional conversation with a man a few weeks ago at an event. And his first comment to me after I'd done a talk was, I kind of get it, but I don't really feel that I've got that much on my shoulders. And then we started to talk and he shared the weight, and then he started to tell me a few things that were going on. And by the end of it, we both had tears in our eyes, because we don't give ourselves enough credit for how much weight we're carrying. And I think I, for one, am very much like that. Sometimes I don't realize quite how much I've taken on, quite how much I'm worried about things, until it almost becomes unbearable. As you said, going back to that suicide being the final collapse under that unbearable weight. We adjust until we break. I am so guilty of that. My wife is always telling me that is one of my sort of negative traits, so to speak. Rather than put our weight down, rather than talk to someone, rather than to try and lighten that load, we just keep adjusting because we don't realize how heavy it's getting, and we adjust ourselves to fit the weight. Something which I've heard so many times in these conversations with people. We don't realize how heavy it is, and we just keep adjusting what we do until we can't cope anymore. And we get so used to it, we forget it's not normal. Again, I'm guilty of it. I know a lot of people do it, but we get so used to struggling, we get so used to feeling the way we do that we don't actually realize that this isn't normal. When I went through my worst period of depression a number of years ago now, I was in such a low state that I think I felt that's how life was always going to be, because I've been slowly being crushed by those feelings that I was carrying to a point where it just felt like that just felt like life. It felt like normal, and we get so used to it that we just don't realize actually how much we're carrying. Sharing even a little bit can be life-saving. Now, look, at the start, I told you a load of things that I'm worried about, I'm stressed about, things about my past, things that are going on for me now. What I'm not saying is advocating for everybody to all of a sudden go, start telling everybody everything and going on to, like I do with social media, and just being quite open about it. Sometimes just sharing a little bit can be life-saving, because it can take enough of that weight off to stop us feeling like we're being crushed. It's incredible, the feeling once we take that off our shoulders, whether it's a little bit of it, whether it's a lot of it, but just sharing a small bit of it can be life-saving. It can give us enough respite to keep going a bit extra longer. Sharing our weight, it can create the most incredible moments of connection. I sort of consider myself a bit of a professional now when it comes to asking for help and asking strangers for help as well. The next video that I'm going to play to you, every person in this video was a stranger at the time. And I can't tell you, some of the moments of connection, some of the people that I've met along the way, some of the stories that I've heard have created some absolutely, I suppose, some of the most incredible moments of connection, and ones I'll never, ever forget. And never underestimate the power of a hug. One of my favorite things about taking my bag of worries out and sharing away and asking people for help is that sometimes you'll get the best hugs, especially men as well. Men are great at giving hugs. But some of those hugs have been, just incredible. And some of the conversations that have preceded those hugs have been some that I'll never ever forget. But to sort of give you an idea of what share the weight looks like in practice, here's another group of people that I met a few weeks ago when I was out running at an event.
And you're struggling with your own weight, people. Do not think you are alone.
There's no shame in talking, man. And it'll probably lighten the load.
Don't give up and keep going.
Always talk to people.
You are here, and we are all here for you.
So don't be shy. Go for it. We should be proud of what we're doing out there.
It's not always going to be easy. Use your friends and family. They're all around you to help you. And they want to help.
It's always nice to have the weight lifted off your shoulders sometimes.
And you never know, someone's probably going through the same shit as you.
You might think that people would judge you. It's amazing how many people are going through stuff themselves and they just want someone to talk to them.
Go and seek help. Go and speak to someone.
Getting out there is not easy, mentally and physically.
Life is all about the ups and downs, but what is important is how you come out of it.
Don't ever think you're alone out here, people. We are all together.
So I'll take that step and be open and talk about it.
Yeah. There's always someone to talk to.
You are not alone. I am here with you.
That's it, come on!
The weight. Share the weight.
Like for me, those moments when I look at some of these videos that I take along the way, and some of these people that I meet, these are all strangers, who were once strangers, should I say, who are now sort of connected through helping me to share the weight on my shoulders. Each one knows my story, and I know so many of theirs as well. And I think a lot of the time we fear that judgment, that burden, that stigma of asking people for help. And what I'm really trying to show with all of this is how much greatness can come from those moments of connection, that asking for help, it doesn't make us weak, it doesn't make us a burden, and it can lead to the most incredible moments. What I love seeing, and we'll come on to that one in a minute, but where that man was running past those people who are all cheering, who are all giving those round of applause. And for me, that's such an important point, because when people can see that weight we're carrying, when people know how heavy it is, that's where the support is. If people can't see it, a lot of the time they don't know. So yeah, as I said, for me, it's those moments of connection that can come from when we start to reach out and ask for help can be absolutely life-changing. And lastly, the last few lessons from this journey. Safe spaces, they're not physical places, they are people. I don't know how many people have heard in the past where someone might say, this is a safe space. I've lost count now, and I'll be completely honest, this journey has made me cry a number of times, and a lot of the time with other blokes as well, and in the most bizarre places, in places that you wouldn't necessarily consider a safe space. And the reason why I sort of say that in terms of the sort of the emotional side is because obviously a lot of these conversations are incredibly powerful. They move me. I never get numb to it, and to hear people's stories, and some of the places where we've had these conversations, as I said, in a field with thousands of people on marathon day. This man you'll see in a minute, I'll tell you a bit of the backstory when I play the video, but it was in the middle of Woolwich on a Saturday with about 100 people around us, and was one of the most emotional conversations I've ever had. I spoke to a man. I went to a run club last year, and a man asked to share the weight on my shoulders. And he asked to share the weight on my shoulders. He said to me, "Can I share the weight here?" And I said to him, "Why here? Is there a reason why you want to share the weight at this point?" And then he told me the story about how he'd lost his brother to suicide, and it was in the location that we were where it had happened. And it was the first time he'd been back since it had happened. And he wanted to share the weight to mark his memory, and to sort of give him that purpose of running past that point, to show his, it was for him. He wanted that moment to run past the area with my worries. And when I mentioned about the hugs, when I mentioned that, it's an emotional time sometimes, that was one of the most emotional conversations I'd had. And when it passed that point and he felt ready to give it back, the hug, the conversation, I'm human, I might be big, I might be bald and covered in tattoos, but I'm human. And that moment got me. Same with this man that we're about to hear from in a minute. But it constantly makes me realise safe spaces aren't places, they're people. And when people feel that they can be themselves without judgment, without stigma, that is a safe space. Again, it's not about the setting, it's about the connection. When I think humans, I know me, when I feel that that person genuinely cares, when that person isn't going to judge, it's just going to listen, that's where the connection comes. It's not about the setting. Most of the conversations I have take place in public, they take place around people, and what most people wouldn't consider a safe space. When people see the weight we're carrying, they're more likely to help. The fact is, this resonates with both my bag and when it comes to things like, as I said, about depression. I put a social media post out about my depression when I've been prescribed my antidepressants, and the amount of support that I got from it, and people checking in a few weeks afterwards as well to say, you know, how are you finding the antidepressants? Are you feeling any better, etc., etc. They wouldn't have necessarily checked in on me had they not have known. And again, what I'm not advising is for people to all of a sudden start going out across various different social media platforms and start telling everybody. But what I'm saying is that when people can see the weight, when people know, they're so much more likely to help. And sometimes it takes that first ask of help to sort of to start the domino effect. People do want to help. Sometimes they just need that opening. As I said, you know, I'm very open about this in my past and my present and bits and pieces. And I find that when people know, they're more than likely to help. They want to help, but we're human. We get so wrapped up in life because our lives are hard. You know, the weights we're carrying are heavy. And we all want to help each other, but sometimes we're dealing with our own weight. But inherently, what I've found throughout this is that people do want to help. Sometimes they just need to know, and you know, that's okay. And people are amazing. I've had the most incredible moments. One of the best things I've ever done is try and ask people for help, because it's led to so many moments, so many connections, and so many moments that I'll never ever forget. And I've met the most amazing people just by showing my worries and carrying them on my shoulders. I'm going to play you this video. This is, I'd say this is probably one of the most emotional conversations I've had with this gentleman. I'm not going to go into the backstory too much, but I was out at a park run a few weeks ago, and he happened to see me. He wasn't taking part in the run, but he happened to see me standing around and wanted to sort of know a bit more about what I was carrying, and his story and what he was going through, and that moment, I will never ever forget it. But again, two strangers, we didn't even know each other's names until the end of the conversation. But it's a conversation that will live with me forever, and kind of is one of the reasons why I do what I do. But this is his little video for people struggling at the moment.
Never think you're alone. Sometimes you're in a dark place. Stand strong inside, even if you're feeling weak. Share it, and there'll be someone else there. Go and find a mate. Go and find someone. Share it. You'll be better for it. Yeah, mate, look. I'm wearing my tag. Society doesn't quite understand me sometimes. Sometimes I get it wrong. Sometimes you can't work it out. People will listen. People do care. Your brothers care. Let's do it together. Talk to each other. Let's not make it taboo. Let's do what we should do. That's all I can say.
So you'll be pleased to have all the timers as well. So I'm going to try and wrap this up. Last one, sorry, last point. Asking for help doesn't make us weak. I hope that if this shows you one thing, that asking for help doesn't make us weak. It's led me on the most incredible journey so far, and one which I will never forget, especially some of the people that I've met along the way, all of whom were strangers, until I started asking for help and until I started sharing the way. I've got one. And also along the way as well, sorry, I just realised I've got a couple more slides. I've met some famous faces along the way, and so in there you've got people that have helped me. For example, Joe Wicks. We've got Dame Kelly Holmes, Gabby Logan. We've got Ian Beale from EastEnders, and a few others. But again, this is all sort of started from me asking people for help. And led me to meet some of these people along the way who have all helped share the weight on my shoulders. And one more last video before I wrap up. Is that okay? Just the last video. If anybody is feeling like you're a burden and you can't ask for help, you can't tell people what's really going on, I'm just going to leave with this very last video. This was taken last weekend. I ran London Marathon with my bag of worries. Each person in this video was running the marathon. It was a hot day. It was an awful day. They each had their own challenges going on with their own marathon journey, but each one of them helped share the weight along the way. If there's people out there that are willing to run a marathon and share someone else's 24.7 kilo bag of worries, there are people out there that are ready to listen to what you've got on your shoulders. So this is the last video, and then I will end.
Got weight on your shoulders, talk to someone about it.
Yeah, just don't be shy and share the weight. Share the weight in general in life.
Share the weight, share the weight, share the weight.
Just one foot in front of the other. Definitely ask for help.
People might look okay, but most people aren't.
We've all got problems, but we can get through this together.
Get some help, share the load.
Talk to your friends, talk to your family.
You never know who needs you. Be there.
Reach out to people that need it as well, to see if you can help them.
Big up the man then. Mental health matters.
Oh, guys.
Big up. Big up.
There you go. So I think that is it from me. I'm going to stop sharing now because I'm very conscious of time. I hope that was okay. I could feel my nerves were getting a bit heightened as we were going through that, and I was getting all very jumbled up. But we are where we are.
You were absolutely amazing. We're absolutely fine for time. A good bit of time to have a bit of conversation. Can I just say, I really found that super emotional today. The representation of the visual prop of sharing emotional weight, I just think it's just been so impactful. You and I, Andy, have had a couple of conversations before today's talk, and we've kind of shared some experiences as well. And you said something to me which is really stuck in my head, and it was find your tribe. So we're talking here about running, you know, with this weight. It doesn't need to be the running, the physical. It's like find people to make the connection and find your community that you feel safe to kind of being able to open up, and no judgment. I think everyone's got, like you touched on, everyone's got something that they can do without. We've got a few questions in the chat box, but for me personally, thank you so much. I know you expressed that you were nervous before the call. I think we're going to get some incredible feedback. It was for you to share your own personal story as well. It's incredible. So thank you so much. We've got a fellow Samaritan who's put a comment on there just giving you a lot of praise as well. Keep doing the great work. Something I did want to ask and you didn't touch on, and I'm so glad that you weren't modest and you put on all your celebrity followers. But if people want to get involved and help you, I know your aim is to share the load with 1 million people.
Yeah.
Listen, go for it. The sky's the limit. How can people get involved? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, I suppose how can people get involved? At the moment, as I said, this all has been a bit of unexpected, and I haven't really got a plan as such. But if people want to get involved, then I don't know if anybody here is on things like Instagram, but I'm on there as Share the Weight 24/7. And what I'm trying to do is, especially because, as I said, this is sort of seems to have fallen within various different sort of communities, like the running community, for example, and also walk and talks, runs, anything like that. If anybody wants to help share share the weight, reach out. I'm very, very grateful of any help. I'm also looking at potentially doing a challenge for Samaritans in July. In fact, it's pretty much looks like it's going to happen, but I'm going to be doing 24th of July is Samaritans Day 24/7, and I'm going to be running 24 kilometers a day for 7 days, carrying my 24.7 kilo bag, finishing on 24/7, but looking to get as many people involved as possible. So we're going to be doing it at various different locations each day, and hopefully show that this isn't, I can't do this on my own, I need people to come and help. So whether it's during that challenge or if people have got, various other events or anything like that, yeah, just anybody who wants to help share the weight, feel free to reach out.
We'll pop your details in the chat box later and get everyone following you. You touched on a really great thing, and you said safe spaces are not physical. And someone's asked, what's your best tip to start a conversation, especially in our industry where it is pretty much male dominated. So what kind of tips would you have for kind of opening up that tough conversation?
I think it's really, really difficult, isn't it? Because opening up a conversation, that person has to be ready to talk. And I think, we can always say, sort of ask those sort of open questions. There's some fantastic resources as well. And one thing I forgot before I ended the slide, the next slide was about signposting to Samaritans. But Samaritans have got some fantastic resources on our website for things like, how to have conversations. If you're worried about someone, how to start the conversations. There's some fantastic tips. We've got things called like the shush listening tips. And various other things. I'll definitely signpost to that. But I think, as I said, sometimes it's more about how we listen than how we talk and how we have those conversations. I'm always, Samaritans are fantastic in terms of we don't give advice, and the same with me when I'm out sharing away. I don't give advice to people, because as you saw at the start, I've got enough things that are going on in my life. I'll be the last person to give people life advice, but what I can do is listen. What we can all do is listen. And I think half the time that's all we need is just someone just to be able to say, this is how I'm feeling, and listen without judgment, without advice, and just be there. I think half the battle is just showing that we care, like we genuinely care. And I think that's why I always go back to that sort of safe space of worked in places before. People said, "Oh, this is a safe space," but it didn't feel like one. Yeah. Just because we say it doesn't mean it feels like it. And I think a lot of that is very much how we approach those sort of conversations with genuine care. But as I said, yeah, there's some great tips and advice as well as resources on our website.
Yeah, we'll definitely link that in the chat as well. So something that we have been kind of chatting about in the charity is like the walking and talking side of things. Don't want people being put off thinking they need to run a marathon with 24.7 on their back. So I suppose it's like, what would you encourage workplaces to do to help create the culture of creating that safe talking space?
I think that I always hear a lot when it comes to things like well-being and mental health within organisations. For example, we don't have the money, we don't have this, we don't have that. But it's not about that. It's about showing genuine care and showing genuine compassion and empathy for the understanding what people are carrying. And when people feel that, this is my own personal view as well, don't get me wrong, I'm no expert in workplace health, etc. But when people feel that they're genuinely cared for and that organisations genuinely care, as I said, it makes places feel safer. I think things like walk and talks are fantastic. I know, for example, Jaguar Land Rover do a fantastic initiative with their walk and talks. And things like that. I think that's one of the reasons why it works with what I do. And again, definitely don't need a 24.7 kilo bag on your shoulders. But when you're walking side by side with someone, it takes a lot of that pressure off of a conversation. When you're sitting and looking someone dead in the eyes, it can feel quite intimidating. Things like walking and talking, even going for a drive with someone. I find that quite effective with my daughter actually sometimes, is if I think there's something going on, but she's, I'm very much that spare human day. Be like, right, let's go for a drive. I've got to pop to the shop. And it's that side by side without looking at each other that you can start to have that conversation. So I think anything that encourages that sort of active movement and things like that helps as well, because we all know that walking, talking, whatever it might be that we resonate with is a really big help.
Fantastic. And someone's asked, what's next for you?
Good question. I'll go where the help's offered. So, I suppose going back to what I was saying at the beginning, I've got a lot on with work, with volunteering, with various bits and pieces. So I've got to try and fit all of this in amongst that. I've got quite a few runs coming up and places where I've been invited to come and help. I've been invited by people to help me share the weight. But yeah, I'm sort of making it up as I go along, really. The next big one's probably going to be the 24/7 challenge for Samaritans in July. But I've got, I think, runs and events booked up over the next few weeks at weekends. And yes, trying to fit in the family life around that as well.
All you need is one A-lister and you'll get that million people.
Yeah.
Andy, we'll wrap things up for now. I can't thank you enough for your honesty and your amazing presentation today. I'm sure someone had actually said they had to pop off the call, but they had a few tears when they were watching the videos. It's been super impactful. And as I say, the representation of the visual of carrying the load and just, sharing your story with someone and, sharing that burden. But thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who's popped on today at lunchtime. I hope this time has kind of suited everyone a little better than the earlier starts. So join us next month in June for our next Wellbeing talk. As I said, this has been recorded. We'll distribute it when it's ready, and we'll pop some of the resources onto the chat facility. So thanks so much, Andy. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.